I'm so excited to read horror books for the next 24 hours. I'm super excited to be co-hosting this round of 24-hour horror-a-thon hosted by Ashley from Ashley's Little Library. This is a readathon that she runs roughly every other month, where the focus is to read as much horror as you can for 24 hours. There's a group read, and then at the end of the 24 hours for reading, there's a group movie watch. So my top priority is the group read. I will be starting with The Horror by David Sodergren. This says, I don't fear death, but they do. Muriel Macaulay has lived in the Scottish fishing village of Witch Haven all her life. She was born there and she intends to die there. But when an overseas property developer threatens to evict the residents from their homes and raze Witch Haven to the ground in the name of progress, all seems lost. Until the day a mysterious fog bank creeps inland. The Horror. To some it brings redemption, to others it brings only madness and death. What macabre secrets lie within. There's a little bit more, but my Kindle kicked me out of that and just opened the book. It is 206 pages, so my goal is to finish this one tonight and then have all day tomorrow to read a ton of novellas that I own. So this is my top priority stack, but I do have some others to get to if these ones get finished. I doubt they will. Most of these don't have the audiobook, and that is how I read the fastest. But I had some polls up on my Patreon, and the two that I'm definitely going to get to besides The Horror are Telecommuting by L. Marie Wood and Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. I have the audio for this one. I have the ebook for this one, so I might be able to read that a little bit faster. And then three others that I want to prioritize are Jack and Jill by Keelan Patrick Burke. I have read a few from this author already. And then two new to me authors, Standalone by Paul Michael Anderson, this is a sci-fi slasher, and Antioch by Jessica Leonard. People have recently been murdered, and a bookseller convinces herself that a seventh victim has been abducted, and she's trying to kind of solve this case. I can't wait to prioritize reading some short horror for the next 24 hours. I think this readathon is going to be so much fun. We are about to start the sprints on Ashley's channel, but I'm really looking forward to starting The Horror. I've heard incredible things about it. It's 11:40 and I am halfway into The Horror. I wanted to be further than I am, but my sister video called me and we ended up talking for a while. Like, I ended up talking to my whole family, but I'm having such a good time on sprints. I'm pointing at my computer like you can see it, and I'm also really enjoying this book. It's kind of giving me the vibes of Foe by Ian Reid in like a really weird way. And this is one of my favorites from last year. It didn't make my top 10, but it was in my top 20, 25 out of 200, so pretty good. This one for sure is more unhinged. I don't know how to talk about this book. I'm looking at the synopsis again because I didn't finish reading the whole thing earlier. Yeah, so it does not say a lot of the things that happen in here. So we are following Muriel, and she lives in this town that is like this very beautiful like coastal town in Scotland, and there's this like rich billionaire that is buying everybody out to turn it into his like golf course. He's trying to make a profit off of it. Obviously he is turning it into a golf course, like building a bunch of stuff, and he's trying to buy everybody out, and she's like, I'm not leaving. This is where I grew up. This is where my life has been. I don't want to leave. And there's like 7 people in this town who have held out on selling. She's really grieving her life. Pretty much everybody around her is gone. Her husband has died a long time ago, and it's like this town is home for her. So giving that up is like extremely difficult. And these people are like bulldozing her chicken coop because they're like, well, if you look at this map, it's on his property. But like, she's like, no, it's not. So this guy is like trying to do anything to get rid of everybody who still lives there. There's been some messed up stuff with that. I hate like all of the characters in here other than Muriel and one of her neighbors, Arthur. Like, everybody is pissing me off. Like, there's been some very messed up stuff. Things I was not expecting. There's been some gore in here, and there's a very unexpected element that I was not prepared for. Some of it's a little funny too, which I was not expecting. I don't know if it's supposed to be specifically funny, but I thought it was funny. But I am having a really good time with this. It's just weird. It's silly, but also like kind of sad and melancholic. But I am enjoying it, and I'm very curious where this is going to continue going, because there was one thing that happened and I was like, oh, that's the direction we're going in. And then that changed and I'm like, well, now I don't know what we're doing. So I for sure am going to finish this before I go to bed. It says I have an hour and 17 minutes left at the speed that I've been reading. And it's only 10:40, so I'm not concerned about getting this done. I don't think I will start another book tonight, but then I'll have all day tomorrow to read. I'm hosting sprints and I'm gonna make sure they're like pretty focused so I can get a lot done. But I really can't wait to see how this ends. So I finished the Horror. It's on my Kindle. I already returned it. I don't know how to talk about this book. So I had mentioned Foe, and I do think that there were a few aspects of that in the last half that gave me those vibes, but it was only the ones that reminded me of the one chapter that happened before. So like it's not throughout the whole thing. This book is so gory and like over the top, but not in a way that like made me truly obsessed with it. The moments that I really liked were the more quiet moments that dealt with grief and this woman and losing her husband so long ago, and how she like feels like she had accepted it, but then she realized she really didn't, and like losing everybody in her life and even her family members that are alive just not really interacting with her. So seeing this relationship that happens in here is like sad but a little bit sweet, but like also, I mean, this is not any sort of healthy thing. Like I cannot stress that enough. But also I can't tell you about really anything with that because it's a complete spoiler. I think I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars. There were moments that I really liked and I was entertained the whole way through. It just felt like there were a lot of different styles of writing in here. There was like really good like grief horror and good conversations in the beginning, and then there's like certain things that I'm like, oh, a man definitely wrote this, and I'm like, I don't it was like almost funny to think about that being like what is so horrific to this guy. And I was just like, okay. And then it was just like a lot of like gore and violence. That doesn't bother me, but it was just too much when I really, really loved the other aspects of this that like we're almost there, but not really the focus of the book. I did overall enjoy it. I am glad that this was picked as the buddy read. I think it's fun and I think it has led to some interesting discussions about it. But yeah, 3.5 stars for me. So it is currently 1 in the morning and I am going to get started on telecommuting. I don't plan on reading a lot of this tonight, but I don't like to start books. Starting books is the most daunting thing for me in reading for some reason. Like, I don't know why, but I want to start this so that in the morning I can just pick it up and I'm already in the story and I don't have to like use the brain power to actually start a book. I'm really excited for this one. I met this author at an event and she was very funny, and she does Afrofuturism, horror, and sci-fi. So I think this one's going to be really cool. I don't think all of her books are all of those things, but I think that this one's going to be really fun. It is about somebody that works from home and starts to hear whispers. So I'm going to read a few chapters. It is 10:45 on Saturday. I don't know if I told you, this started at 8 p.m. Eastern last night. So I was on sprints with Ashley for the 3 hours that she was on sprints. And then I was like, I struggle to read books physically, so I need people to keep me accountable. So I did another 2.5 hours of sprints on my Patreon. During that, I finished the horror, and then I also got a little bit into Telecommuting by L. Marie Wood. I also had the ebook of this from my library, so I read about 25 pages before I went to bed. This one is just around 100 pages. And then I finished the rest this morning. It's so short that I didn't really have much to update you on because I didn't love this one. I don't know if it's just in the ebook copy or if it's also in this one, but there were some errors that I noticed, like a word would be repeated in a sentence too early instead of like another word. Let me see if I can find it on my Kindle while I'm scrolling through these pages. So I also feel like part of the reason I didn't like this one as much was because I feel like I was misled with the synopsis on the back of the book. So it seems like it's going to be this guy that works from home and he likes to be secluded, and then there's these whispers that start happening. But what really is happening is he just moved into this new house, is starting this new job, and his wife just left him. And he is dealing with the grief of losing her and being in this new place and not being around family or friends or anything, and starting this new job and just feeling very lonely. This did come out in 2020. I'm not sure what part of the year, so I'm not sure if this was inspired because of people working from home more because of COVID, even though COVID's not in the book. And I don't really think there were any whispers in the book. The things that are happening are all in his head. He's not like hearing things. His mind like just thinks a random thing and he's like what the heck was that? So it's definitely not what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be creepier. And then the way this wrapped up, it didn't really wrap up. So if you don't like ambiguous endings, this one's very ambiguous. I really don't know what was happening in the whole book, honestly, which is fine for me. Like, I don't need to know answers, but it just, like, I don't know, there's something about it. I think I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars, which is just like a very average book for me. I don't know, I can't find the mistake. I can't think of a way to explain this, which is really annoying me, but it was incorrect. It happened at least 3 times that I noticed, but I didn't notice it when I was reading the physical copy before I went to bed. So that is this, a 3.5 star with a heart, 2.5 stars with Telecommuting. I did like both. I mean, 2.5 stars is like on the verge of I didn't really like it, but I still, like, I don't think it was terrible. So I am about to start reading sprints on my channel, and I think the next book I'm going to start is going to be one with an audiobook. I just need to clean this area a little bit, and I need to, and Adam and I are going to make lunch. So I am either going to start Crossroads by Laurel Hightower or Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. But I've heard such good things about both, and after reading 2 books on my Kindle in a row, I really need an audiobook. So I'm on sprints and I have started Crossroads. I am listening to the audiobook and I am now 56 pages in and I am loving this. There's something about the writing that is working so well for me. So, sorry, Adam is making lunch. So we are following a woman who lost her son in a car accident, and she goes to the place where he died at the crossroads because that's where she feels most connected to him instead of at the grave. And one day when she is there, she accidentally cuts her finger, and then that night she thinks she sees his ghost outside of her window. And like, obviously, is it him? Is it something else? But she is still grieving him and obviously wants to see him again, and continues to put herself in a situation where she is sacrificing her blood and she is hiding it from everybody in her life. Her and her husband are separated and she is like in the beginnings of a new relationship with this guy. I don't know what it is about this book, because like not a whole lot is happening, but like I'm feeling like this could be 5 stars. I just think the way that the grief is portrayed in here is done so well. I'm really liking the writing. It's so easy to read and I feel like I'm prepared for my heart to be broken. So I'm really glad that I finally picked this one up, because I've had it on my radar for a while and then I've owned it for a little bit. Also, look at this bookmark. Kitty from Spicy Cats Reads made this and gave it to me when we met up recently. I wanted to show you that before I put it back in the book. But I do have this one signed. I'm really excited to have a copy of this because like I'm just really loving it. It is 1:30 and I have finished Crossroads and I'm gonna give this one 5 stars. I think that it was such a compelling read. The way that the grief was handled in here was just like heartbreaking and I just really loved it. I don't have much to say, like not a whole lot happens in this book, but just like the writing in it and the way that it's done is absolutely incredible. I wish I had not put this off for so long, but I'm really glad that I read it and I'm glad I have a signed copy. I wish I had more to say about this book, but like really, it is grief horror. What I told you at the beginning is what happens the whole book. There's no surprises, there's no like twist or anything. It is pretty gory. If you have any sort of issues with reading about self-harm, I would skip this one. Like it's a lot, but other than that, it was a very straightforward grief story and I just thought it was done so well. And I've already read Below from this author, but I definitely want to read more if she has more. I'm not sure if she does. I will need to look into that. So I think next up I'm going to go with Jack and Jill because it is another short one. So then I'll like push myself to get this one done. I think this is the one I'm going to end up reading. This is on my 24 to read from my shelves in 2024 list or on haul. So that's why I picked both of these. They're both on this list. I don't know too much about this one other than Jillian and John, but they also go by Jack and Jill. Oh no, like Jack and Jill. So it's Jillian and John and there's something to do with abuse and John dies as a kid and now Jillian is married and is dealing with the trauma of everything that happened with that. I've enjoyed everything I've read by this author, so I expect this one to go well. It's 3:30. I'm starting to shut down. I've only read half of Jack and Jill. I was on sprints. I had to do some stuff for my cats and order stamps and just random things. But I only got like 4 hours of sleep and I'm really struggling to read physical books right now. I generally read with audio, so reading so much with my eyeballs has been exhausting on top of already being exhausted, but I am halfway into this and I think it's really good so far. So we are following Jillian and she's just processing all of this trauma in her dreams, I guess. She's being haunted by an alternate version of her father in her dreams who abused her and her brother died as a child. So it's just like really sad and heavy, but I'm very interested in everything. Like her dreams are impacting her family now, and there's just like some weird moments, and I know he writes some weird stuff. So I'm so curious what the ending of this is going to be. But yeah, this has so much to do with childhood trauma. So it could be a lot for some people to read. It is just after 5 and I have finished Jack and Jill by Keelan Patrick Burke, and I ended up really loving this one. I'm gonna give this one 5 stars as well, which is funny because I just did a video where I talked about all of my horror books under 300 pages that I gave 5 stars. I had 15 of them and now I've added 2 more to my list, but this one was just like, I don't know what it was, but it was just absolutely incredible. It was heartbreaking, and seeing our character deal with this trauma from her past and seeing how it impacts her moving forward in her relationship with other people and her thought process and all of this stuff for how she interacts with the world, really. It's just, oh my gosh, I really loved this character. I think with both of these, the characters really just worked for me. I really did not have high expectations for this one, which I don't know why, because I've liked everything I've read from him, but I figured Sour Candy was just going to be like my favorite from him, and I would enjoy the other ones, but they wouldn't be favorites for me. But I absolutely love this one. It's really a tough read, but everything was just so interesting and compelling. Cats and plastic, I don't get it. Anyway, this was just like really heartbreaking, but so good and disturbing and sad, and I really loved it. I don't know if I like this one more than Nova. I don't know if I like this one more than Sour Candy. They're very different vibes, so I don't know, but I really love this a lot. So my final book is going to be Antioch. I'm really hoping I can finish it in time. It is just around 200 pages, but the font is pretty big, so I hope it goes well. This one is tied roughly with the Har for the longest one. The font is really big, so I'm really hoping I can finish it before my 24 hours is up. But we're following a woman who lives in a town where 6 women have been murdered, and she becomes convinced that the 7th victim has already been abducted. She's really obsessed with Amelia Earhart. I don't know, but I'm really excited for this. 1, I love cats. 2, I am about halfway into Antioch by Jessica Leonard. It is like 7:15, so I am not going to finish this within my exact 24 hours, but I still am going to finish this because it makes sense to finish the book, and also I'm obsessed with it. So we are following Bess, and she is the assistant manager at the local bookstore, and she also has this weird obsession with Amelia Earhart. It's like a thing from her childhood that she became obsessed with, and she has this, like, I don't remember the radio setup, but like an old radio setup where she can kind of like listen to anybody and it like calms her down, and it's like her thing. So at the very beginning, we are seeing her getting home from this date with this guy Greg, and he sees her radio and all of this, and then later that night she is listening to the radio to calm herself down, and this transmission comes through that sounds like it's from Amelia Earhart, which is so weird. And she's like, I don't, why is Amelia Earhart's ghost talking to me? So then the next night, she hears it again, and she's like way more awake, and she realizes that it is someone that has gone missing recently, and there's also been 6 women who've been savagely murdered, and the media dubs the killer as Vlad the Impaler due to the gruesome crime scenes of his victims. There are heads left on poles, so that's been fun, and she has been like kind of stalked. People are knocking on her door and like leaving things on her lawn and in her mailbox, and it's very stressful, and I'm truly having such a good time with this. She has been doing some investigating and like, is this disappearance and these murders connected? I've been truly obsessed with it. And then the last chapter that I just read is in second person, and that was weird, so I'm so intrigued. if this keeps going how it's going, I think it's going to be 5 stars, which I don't know if I've ever had a video where I only read 5 books and gave 3 of them 5 stars. So I really cannot wait to finish this book. It will be over my 24 hours, but who cares? The 24 hours are up. I forgot to check in with you because I wasn't finished my book. So I read a little bit more, and then there was the watch party for the Readathon. And then I read a little bit more after, and then today's actually 2 days after the Readathon, but yesterday I quickly finished Antioch by Jessica Leonard. I don't know how to feel about this book or how to talk about this book, but like really I loved it. My experience reading this book was such a good time. I think I'm gonna give it 5 stars, but this is not one that I would recommend for people that need a very concrete ending. I don't want to go into too much detail, but this really doesn't feel like it has an ending. It's so abrupt. I feel like I need to like reread the last 2 pages, but like I've looked at reviews and everybody says that like their main issue is the end is just like non-existent, and I think part of that just plays into the paranoia that is happening throughout this whole book. I just felt so stressed while reading this. You never really know what's going on, what's real, what's not real, and I just like really had such a good time with it. I was interested in this mystery. I was invested. I liked our main character. She obviously had her flaws, but like I loved how obsessed she was. And then sometimes she was so paranoid, and other times she's like, nah, I truly don't care. There could be a murderer in my house, but I'm walking in anyway. And it was so interesting. I really ended up loving this, but with a caveat that I don't think it's perfect. I think the ending could have done a little bit more, and it's for sure not going to be for everybody, especially because of the end. I think that a lot of people could like it leading up to that, but if like the end is the thing for you in a book, maybe skip this one. But I will be reading more from this author, which is really exciting. So during this 24 hours I read around 600 pages. The horror was around 200. In this I gave 3.5 stars. Telecommuting is just over 100. I gave this 2.5 stars. This is my least favorite from the Readathon, sadly. Crossroads is 110 pages and I gave it 5 stars. Jack and Jill is 96 pages and I gave this 5 stars. And Antioch is 212 pages and I gave this 5 stars, but I did not read the whole thing in the 24 hours. I probably read 150 pages. I absolutely cannot believe that I had 3 5 stars in this video. If you are looking for more short horror recs from me, I just did a video talking about my 15 at the time 5 stars under 300 pages. Thank you so much to Ashley for having me co-host this round of 24-hour horror-a-thon. If you've made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji to say you were here, you can leave me a hand for telecommuting. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope to see you soon. Bye!